I love college football. I love it with every fiber of my being. But we're, 2 days now from Alabama and Georgia playing? And we're sitting here having to talk about red shirts. Not developmental red shirts, not medical red shirts, but voluntary red shirts. Tell you one thing, though. This show, contrary to what some of y'all were saying in the live chat before we got rolling here, we will not be taking a red shirt of any shape or kind. Glad to have y'all dialed in, man. It is Thursday, September 26, 2024, the last one on the face of the planet. This is the People's College Football Show, of course, the hard count, talking college football every single day. No red shirts, like I mentioned at the top of this thing. We're going to talk about that, the Bear Alexander situation. And this, of course, is coming on the exact same day, or I guess within 24 hours, of the whole Matthew Sluka situation over at UNLV. Now, I think those two, while similar in nature, overall, I would say are pretty different scenarios. We'll unpack the Bear Alexander thing close up, but then we'll take a step backwards and say, what's going on with college football, man? How do we find ourselves here? We'll try to unravel that a little bit together and take an overarching look at where we stand right now in the college football landscape. We got some more predictions for you for Week 5. I told you this week is absolutely packed. You got a little Colorado UCF happening out there in Orlando. That'll be fun. We'll give you our pick in that one. If you're Colorado, if you want to go ahead and take that next step and be a team that competes for a Big 12 championship, you got to go to the bounce house and find a way to get it done. Can they do it? We'll give you our pick a little bit later in this show. Also, we got Jesse Simonton, one of the best in the business here at On3. You can find a ton of his work over at on3.com. He's going to join the program in a little bit here and tell us what he trusts, maybe what he doesn't trust so much thus far through 4 weeks into the college football season. 4.5 if you count week 0, and of course we do count week 0 on this show. Care factor is something we have emphasized for a long time here on this show. How much you care about your football program from a financial perspective can now have a greater impact on the actual competitive advantage you might be able to gain. All right, and Dave Portnoy, founder of Barstool Sports, just let it be known that he is going to make sure Michigan has a quarterback here going forward. And maybe it sounded a little bit satirical. I don't think he was kidding. I think he was 110% serious when it comes to the way he feels about addressing Michigan's quarterback potential needs here going forward. All that, and then like I mentioned, our final predictions here at the end of this show. We'll give you some more takes on Alabama, Georgia, and what I think is going to happen in that game, maybe specifically at the quarterback position for one of those teams. Also have some takes here when it comes to Penn State, Illinois. We'll talk a little Kansas State, Oklahoma State. We got a lot to jump into here. Week 5, this is one of those slates now that gets you fired up. And when you look out, when you're in March, April, when the college football season is a few months away, you circle certain weeks as okay, that's going to be cinematic. Week 5, to me at least, is one of those weeks. And I think for all y'all that are watching the show, it's one of those weeks for you as well. So we appreciate y'all being dialed in. If you haven't yet subscribed, would love to have you a part of this. This is College Football Sickos by College Football Sickos. And if you're more of a podcast person, Apple, Spotify, however you get down, you type in the hard count with JD Pickell, and you can find our podcast waiting there for you with open arms, ready to welcome you in to this community. All right, so let's start here, man. Last night, news breaks. If you're following the On3 Twitter account and you got the notification, or if you're following Pete Nakos on Twitter, you got notification. Bear Alexander, USC defensive lineman, guy who was a top 10 defensive lineman in the class of 2022, started his career at Georgia, went to USC. I think he's been a pretty strong addition for USC in that front seven. He is going to redshirt. And so this being on the heels of the UNLV Matthew Sluka situation, okay, he wants more money. What's going on here? Because there was a rumor for a while there that he was jumping in the portal during that spring window. And then you're like, okay, so he must want more money. So I text Pete Nakos, and I'm like, hey, is this a money thing? From what it sounds like, it's a playing time thing. On social media, after the Michigan game, Bear Alexander posts free 9-0. Of course, Bear Alexander wears number 90. Not so subtly implying that he would like to play more. He played 21 snaps of the 58 snaps defensively against Michigan. And, of course, USC got ran on for darn near 300 yards. Tony Jones is a father figure for Bear Alexander that spoke to Pete Thamel, and he gave him this quote. He said, quote, "We made it clear what our goals are. Our goal is to be a full-time starter and leader on the defense." And so, essentially, he's saying, hey, if that's not going to happen, if Bear Alexander isn't playing 35 to 40 snaps a game and doing what we think he's supposed to be doing here, then all right, we're going to have to figure something else out. So He is going to redshirt this season, sit it out, throw in the towel, however you want to put it, and then enter the transfer portal, it sounds like, and look for somewhere else to play. This is a bad move. Like, I understand there's other people that will push back and say, well, if you want to help your NFL prospects, if you want this, if you want that, you're playing the long game. No, not this is the long game. This is short-sighted. This is the opposite of playing the long game, if you ask me. Because for Bear Alexander, if you're not playing at USC the amount you want to play on a defense that is, quite frankly, in a transitional period where they're trying to get better on that side of the football, where you allow almost 300 rush yards and you're only playing 21 snaps, what makes you think that you're going to transfer somewhere else of an equal caliber kind of school and get more snaps? Also, if your goal is to play in the NFL, which I have to believe for someone like Bear Alexander, that is the ultimate goal, to go be able to ultimately sign another NFL contract and have a lot of success at the professional level. If that is your goal, you're playing for a guy right now that coached Aaron Donald. If development and actually getting better at the sport is your goal, from the outside looking in, you're playing for an individual that's going to equip you to do that. This is short-sighted. To want more snaps, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Also, if your goal, again, going back to the NFL conversation, if that's what you want to talk about here, if I'm an NFL GM, my first question for Bear Alexander is, why'd you quit on your football team 3 games in? And how many games is it going to take for you to quit on our football team? Because now we're seeing a pattern here for Bear Alexander. I don't want to be overly harsh here, but this is the situation we find ourselves in. Bear Alexander played at multiple high schools. Will now be going on his 3rd college. You have to answer more questions here than I think you get to answer about your actual playing abilities. You got to answer, why did you not stick anywhere? And what makes you think that you're going to stick with us? Why can we trust you? The thing that's funny about that quote to me that Tony Jones gave to Pete Thamel is, we want to be a leader on the defense. You want to be a leader, period? Then you don't quit after 3 games. You don't say, I'm not playing so much, I want to go somewhere else and help myself. Leaders aren't selfish people. And I don't know Bear Alexander personally. We had him on the show one time. Thought he was great. I have nothing negative to say about him personally. But from what this move tells me, this is a move that says, I'm worried about me. I'm worried about mine. I'm worried about my future. And everyone's responsible for themselves, so I don't want to make it seem too simplistic. But if you want to be a leader on the defense, stick it out. And I think as we zoom out a little bit here, like, I don't want to comp this to the Matthew Sluka thing so much, because I think they're different situations. And also the Matthew Sluka thing, the more we learn about it, just kind of seems like the agent sort of dropped the ball on how that whole contract situation was supposed to work, but that's another story. Just overall, as we step back a little bit on this Bear Alexander situation and where we find ourselves right now in modern college football, with guys taking red shirts before they play too many games, like, what happened to just taking a sucky situation, whether it's for yourself or somebody else deems your situation to not be ideal, and just doubling down and balling out? Like, what happened to just gritting your teeth and getting after it? Bear Alexander, if you're not happy with how much you're playing, how about you go ball out in practice, put in the extra work, talk to the coach, like, whatever you got to do. And I'm not telling you that I know for a shadow or without a shadow of a doubt that Bear Alexander hasn't already done these things. But, like, just the more you sit with it, the more I'm just like, man, I think, honestly, one of the greatest benefits of playing college football, one of the greatest benefits of playing the sport, period, is the ability to take an unideal situation, finding a way through it, and coming out the other side a better person, better player, all those things. And I don't want to get too cliche here, because I get it now. With college football, we're in a new era. NIL's a thing. The portal's even more prevalent than it ever has been before. Guys are able to take these red shirts and go somewhere else. Like, there's a lot of pieces here right now that are financial and professional in nature. I totally get that. And I think we can understand that. But at the exact same time, see situations like this, see situations happening other places across the country, and be like, man, that sucks. That's not the sport that we all grew up loving. That's not really what college football was ever supposed to be about. And I'm pro NIL, I am pro portal. But situations like this, where you just say 3 games in, hey, sorry, y'all. Sorry, teammates. Sorry, everyone I grinded with throughout the course of spring and summer and winter conditioning, that we pushed sleds together, we did mat drills together. Sorry, I got to do what's best for me. I'm out. Not a fan of it. And I think ultimately, like, we're losing a lot of the accountability that makes football so special. I said it yesterday. College football is the greatest thing in the world to me because of the team element to it. Because I depend on 10 other dudes every single snap to do their job so I can be successful, so we can be successful. And for you to say 3 games in, I'm out. Not a fan. Not a fan. And if you think that the grass is greener somewhere else after going to a third school, and it's not like he's going to a different school because, hey, I want to play at a better level of competition. This isn't like a Cam Ward situation. This is it hasn't worked different places, high school and now at the collegiate level at least. I know for pretty good, can feel pretty confident saying that this move is not a move where it's like, yeah, I want to go play somewhere better. If you can't play at USC right now, I don't know that there's a ton of optimism about going somewhere else. All right, so not a fan of this in college football. Not a fan of us talking about voluntary red shirts when we got a tremendous slate in Week 5 on deck, man. But it is what it is. Had to talk about it, and ultimately, I'll leave you with this thought on this segment. There's so much to being able to double down, grit your teeth, trust yourself, trust your process, get through it, and also be accountable to your teammates. I think that ultimately is something we're missing out here and something that we're seeing less of as we move into a new era of college football. All right, so it is what it is. Again, I don't know Bear Alexander personally. I don't want to speak on anyone's character. That's not what I'm here to do, but that move in itself, can't stand it, hate it, and it's not, I don't think, what any of this was ever supposed to be about. So we'll leave it at that. All right, with that out of the way, let's move on to something a little bit more football-centric. We got a tremendous Week 5 slate. Said at the top of this thing, I'll say it again. We do this every single Thursday. We go out, we look across the upset oceans and see where some fins might find themselves, some shark fins, if you will. This is one of my favorite, if not my very favorite, lower third we have all week long on this very show. Who is on upset watch? Last week, if you were tuned in, we were looking in the right spots. All right, Missouri, they were on upset watch on this segment last week. Vanderbilt took them to OT and woulda, shoulda, coulda got it done. JMU, they were also on the upset watch, forecast, if you will. When they played North Carolina, they thwacked North Carolina. They scored 70 on North Carolina. It was unbelievable. So all that's to say is we're got a hot hand right now, all right? That basket is looking pretty wide open for your boy from deep, all right? So upset watch. Let's start with Friday night, man. We say it all the time. It is scientifically proven from any well-respected scientist, researcher, whoever, that Friday night football, weird things happen. You saw Syracuse get upset last Friday night. You saw Nebraska lose a game they were favored in last Friday night. Miami is welcoming Vatek. So if that Friday night juice wasn't enough for you, Miami's a 19.5-point favorite now. That number just keeps on going up. Virginia Tech just sort of limping in there. What's their record? Oh, they're 2-2. Don't worry about them. On a short week, they have 2 losses, both by 3 points. And Vandy, I think, is better than folks would like to give credit for. Rutgers is a lot better than folks want to give credit for. Both those losses by 3 points. I'm just saying. Miami now hasn't played anybody since Florida early on in the season. Give some credit to G5 USF, but this will be the first Power 4 opponent they've played since Game 1. We're going to learn a lot about Miami here. Now, I already predicted this game. We do not think Miami loses this football game. However, that 19.5 feels a little bit steep to me. A little bit steep, especially on a Friday night with Kyron Drones and his mobile element he's going to add to the game. So keep an eye now on Miami and Vatek on Friday night. Minnesota goes to Ann Arbor. Michigan's favored by 9.5 in this one. But if you're going to be as one-dimensional as you were last week against USC, if you're Michigan, I think Minnesota will be better against the run. And also just the fact that you have a full game on tape now of Alex Orji, I think that's going to be an advantage for Minnesota. We know this now, man. We know PJ Fleck and the gang, they will get up for some games now. They're one of those teams, you talk about culture and juice and unquantifiable factors. Minnesota's one of those teams now, limping in after a loss to Iowa. I'm just saying. Would not be surprised in the slightest if Minnesota covered that number. Would not be surprised in the slightest if we're watching a close game in the fourth quarter between those two. All right, again, I think for Michigan, you got to find some other pitch to bring to the table here because if all you have is the fastball, only a matter of time before somebody takes you yard. Is it Row the Boat University? Remains to be seen. Staying in the Big Ten, Penn State hosting Illinois. 17.5-point favorites. 17.5, and Illinois is a top 20 team in the country. Penn State's rolling right now offensively. Now, have they played anybody of worth? Not necessarily, depending on how you feel about West Virginia. Bielema ball, unbeaten right now. Coming off a big Friday night win in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I don't know if you watched that game, but Illinois went into what was supposed to be a pretty hostile environment, and what I would imagine was a hostile environment out there in Lincoln. Didn't look too bothered. I mean, they just rolled on in there, did their thing, left with the dub. That was a good game, don't get me wrong. It was competitive, but what I'm trying to say here is you go to Happy Valley. If Nebraska didn't bother you, is Penn State's environment going to bother you? Remains to be seen. Luke Altmaier, cool hand Luke. Illinois is averaging 2 takeaways a game. This is the test now if you're Penn State. Is that offense really the Cold Stone Creamery special that Andy Coltonecki talks about out there in Happy Valley? Is it really going to be an improved outfit? We'll see, because Illinois plays a lot of man coverage, and we actually have a pick for you in this game during our final prediction segment of the show. So stay keyed in, stay tuned in, but I'm just saying now, that's one to watch. 17.5, it's a lot of points. It's a lot of points and a lot riding on Drew Aller and his progress and this overall offense's progress under Andy Coltonecki. Last one here, Kentucky at Ole Miss. Ole Miss has been just, an Avenger. They have been the Thanos of college football thus far. Now, to be fair, they haven't really played anybody either. They have, scored over 50 in just about every single game. Jackson Dart is putting up road to glory numbers. We say that a lot on this show because it's true. Kentucky now, rolling into town. 17.5-point dogs. This is the same Kentucky team now that took Georgia to a 1-point game and had everybody the day after saying, Mark Stoops, what are you doing, baby? Why are we punting the football? I'm just saying. I find myself using that line a lot, but I am just saying, in this game, Kentucky, if the improved level of competition impacts Ole Miss and the run the football kind of mentality that Kentucky's going to bring to this game, don't be surprised if it gets a little bit intriguing. You check the score at halftime, you got Kevin Nagandi on your television set saying, whoa, let's go out to Oxford, Mississippi, and Kentucky hanging around trying to play spoiler. Could be one of those situations, all right? So keep a pulse on that. Would not be surprised in the slightest if things got a little bit intriguing out there in Oxford. So we got Miami and Va-Tech on Friday night, Minnesota, Michigan, Penn State, Illinois, Kentucky at Ole Miss. All some spreads that feel just a little bit too big for my liking. So we'll talk about that here a little bit later in this show. All right, we're about to throw it out to Jesse Simonton, who's got some weather here. Before we get to that, though, I want to make sure y'all know this show is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks, daily fantasy, made easy to withdraw what you win. We have plays for you all the time on this channel. Have a play for you a little bit later in the show during our Colorado UCF predictions, so stay tuned for that. Using code HARDCOUNT now, $5. You play a line at $5 worth, even if we don't win. We expect to win, but even if we don't win, $50 in promo funds. So helping us squeeze the juice out of this college football season. Prize Picks using that code, a great way to also support the show. So we appreciate y'all being dialed in. Again, a play for you a little bit later in this live show. Before we get to that, though, man, let's welcome in one of the best in the business. I'll tell you what, man, there's some folks you're just glad to have on your team. Like you're just glad that they're playing on your side of the football, and that is Jesse Simonton, national columnist for us here at On 3, jumping on to break it down right now, man. A little bit of weather out there, but you're just blue-collar operation. Doesn't matter. Rain, shine, sleet, hail, doesn't matter. How we doing, brother?
You can run the flex bone in any weather. So let's roll.
Hey, 3 yards every play. It's the first down. It's the first down. But I have a feeling now we're going to get a little bit explosive here during this segment, so I'm fired up for it, man. We were texting back and forth before this now, and I just wanted to get your take here. It's so early on in the college football season, but it's not so early to where we don't have some opinions formed on some teams. I want to get your opinion. Like, what are you trusting so far through the college football season? What looks valid to you, even though we're only 4 weeks into this thing?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of in that like we're baking a nice or putting together a nice spaghetti marinara. You got to let the sauce simmer a little bit. You got to let those vegetables, the aromatics, all that. We're starting to get the senses now, I think, JD. We're starting to really learn about some of these teams. You and I, again, we were texting back and forth about, what do we believe? What do we not believe? What's real? I certainly believe. I think Miami as a contender is legitimate. You talk about the ROI that Mario Cristobal has gotten on these transfer guys, whether it's Tyler Barron, Simeon Burrow on defense, obviously Cam Ward, Damian Martinez, the receivers on offense. I mean, this is like a Warren Buffett, stock portfolio, the way they've hit on all these guys. It's been really impressive. So the biggest thing with the Canes and kind of where I would kind of want to pick your brain is, are they going to be tested? Yeah, you look at their schedule, and it's almost like I wonder if this is going to be a 2023 version of Georgia, where you go through the whole regular season, then you finally face that test, and for them, the SEC championship against Alabama a year ago. For Miami, maybe it's against Clemson. The difference being now, JD, it's a 12-team playoff, and so you stub your toe, Mario Cristobal's team can still make the field. So absolutely, I mean, you talk about they're number one in the nation in sacks, number one in the nation in yards per play. It's a pretty damn good combo.
Yeah, that'll do just fine, no matter who you're playing against. And I get they haven't played anybody since Florida. I'm really excited to see how they approach little Friday night action. Haven't played anybody in the P4 since Florida. They got Vatek rolling into town. One of those games. The thing for me, Jesse, which makes them like a national title contender, I'm right there with you. I'm buying that. Like, I understand that they probably don't have the roster of a Georgia or an Ohio State, but I think in this 12-team playoff, like if you can just be in the neighborhood from a roster talent perspective, and you got a quarterback like Miami does in Cam Ward, like that might just be the difference for you. And I get you have to string it together there for a number of games, but I think with what we've seen from him so far, nothing would surprise me with him. Like I keep going back to this, seeing him in the swamp just look like he's playing backyard football and see his heart rate look like it's at a resting level for the entirety of that game. Like, that was why I picked Florida in that game, was I thought the atmosphere would get to him. I was way off in that one. So I'm with you. I think Miami 110% should be in that national title contender conversation. And also the schedule, like you mentioned, totally factors into it. Their toughest game is what? At Syracuse to end the year? And even that you could probably lose and run it back. Like,
yeah, I would say
at Syracuse right there. Sorry, go ahead, Jesse. I keep cutting you off. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I was going to say maybe at Louisville, but in terms of like what we know, what we don't know, I mean, a month ago, everyone had this Vatek game circled because they were one of the preseason darlings. They returned more production than almost any team in the country. I think they were top three, offensively and defensively. And that coaching staff, frankly, I think has just really let down the Hokies this year. That Kyron Drones does not look like the same quarterback. The defense has regressed. And so now that game isn't nearly as difficult for the Canes. Whereas, Miami's team seems to be kind of on a rocket ship. I think I'm right there with you with Cam Ward. I think he plays with just kind of a nonchalant swagger. That almost seems like two conflicting things, but he's just got that. I mean, he's out here. There's videos out there, JD, of him literally telling the defense what play Miami's about to run. And then they rumble in and score a touchdown. So the Canes are rolling right now. I'm going to throw you a what do you trust wild card that we did not kind of text about and kind of see if you agree or disagree with this one. What do you trust? Because I do trust that Penn State's offensive renaissance is real. I think we've seen the dividends of the Andy Koltanecki, paying it forward where it's not working at Kansas right now. Jaden Daniels is a shell of himself, and now Drew Allar is suddenly just using that howitzer to actually throw down the field. There's still kind of a no-name cast of receivers. Henry Wallace went off against West Virginia. They had a new guy go off this past weekend. Tyler Warren might be the best tight end, in the nation, I think. And then, Katrin Allen and Nick Singleton, they kind of seemed like they were like Ferraris with, a blown-out tire last year. Or needed an oil change or something. Now they are humming. I mean, so this is talking about an offense that a year ago, the big bugaboo. They were scoring against a lot of these bad defenses, but they couldn't put any explosive plays. Now they're number 3 in the nation in explosive plays, and I'm buying it. If Penn State's going to be held back this year, and where I am going to be curious about the Nittany Lions as soon as this weekend against Illinois, is what happens with the back half of that defense. They've suffered some injuries. You've lost some guys to the NFL. Now, Winston Jr. is probably one of the top safeties, not only in the Big Ten, but in the country. I think he's going to be out at least a month. Well, that's going to cross over into that. I don't think they're in danger of losing Saturday, but we're going to find out about that secondary against Luke Altmaier. Has 10 touchdowns, no interceptions. against Illinois. Then you play USC in 2 weeks. You have Ohio State down the schedule. They're going to be facing some offenses that obviously can match firepower for firepower. So all the belief in the world in Penn State's, offensive renaissance, I actually now have a little bit of questions about Tom Allen and that defense.
Which is so funny because what we talked about before the year was almost the inverse of like, well, the schedule doesn't really shape up that great for them. If they do drop a game, to Ohio State and somebody else, do they still get in with that resume? We felt good about the defense, but now we're like, hey, that offense is kind of humming. I'm right there with you, Jesse. And the snapshot for me with them is early in the year at West Virginia. They get the ball back with, I want to say it was less than a minute, something like 30 seconds or something like that to go in the half. Old Penn State would have said, let's take a knee, good half, boys, get to the locker room, let's figure this out. And Colton Necky just presses the pedal to the metal to play scoring drive. Now, I understand there was probably a little offensive PI that, happens, part of the game, but seeing the mentality change for them, seeing the confidence from a Drew Aller to say, I'm going to cut it loose, and he's got an OC now that's going to empower him to do that, I understand. I'm 100% with you. Like the playmakers may not be the Keandre Lambert-Smiths of last year or any household names, but I'm 100% buying this offensive firepower from Penn State. I think it's real. Something I'm curious about this week, Illinois seems to play a lot of man coverage. And so for Drew Aller now, what's the confidence level in his guys to go win a one-on-one ball? And what's the Andy Colton-Necky special to scheme it up and find a way to create more explosive plays against a really advantageously opportunistic Illinois defense, taking the ball away twice a game. So I'm with you. I think Penn State, with that schedule and what they have on the bone that's left, I'm excited. I'm excited to watch Penn State. Here's, in that same vein, man, I'm trusting the Clemson offense. Like, I understand, like Clemson for the last, call it a year, since Garrett Riley got there and the Cade Klubnik era began, felt very fire-festy, right? It was like, we got this 5-star quarterback, we got this great new offensive genius, and then you show up there and it's like, anemic offensively. You and I talked before the year. It did not feel like Garrett Riley's offense. You are the equivalent of an influencer showing up on an island, and you were promised a resort, and you got a couple of tents to live in. Now, though, it's like Andy Dufresne in Shawshank. It's like the rain is hitting the skin. It feels so good to see the offense stretching the field. I know it was App State. I know it was NC State. But just seeing kind of what we said about Penn State, the mentality offensively feels very different to me. Are you buying or selling that?
I'm buying that the Clemson offense at least has way more teeth than it did, in the last 4 or 5 years. I don't know if I can say I fully trust it yet, just because the numbers are so disparate when you play an offense. Is it just because they're not playing Georgia? Yeah, they averaged like 3.2 yards per play against the Bulldogs, and now they rank in the top 10 nationally in yards per play because they hung 66 and 59 on App State and NC State. The fact that those two defenses have also been shredded by other offenses is a tad concerning. But the where I think you can be optimistic if you're a Tigers fan is that Cade Klubnik suddenly looks like he's playing on time and he's playing with confidence. And it's kind of the little things where, he's running up and down the sidelines and just seems to have some kind of juice and mojo that, wasn't there. Now, again, is it we're doing the movie analogies here? Is this the Space Jam stuff where they've just, they're squirting the fake juice and it's working because they've told themselves, hey, you gas yourself up against some other opponents. And now when they do play better defenses down the road, when they up against Louisville, maybe Miami in the ACC championship game, these kind of early, optimistic or confidence boosters they've built are right there when suddenly the going gets a little tougher. So I like that they seem to have more playmakers, Wesco, Williams, TJ Moore, the other freshman receiver. Brigham Sewell was, I think, probably carved himself into a decent NFL draft pick. And Phil Maffa, as much as I think we all liked Will Shipley, just to kind of his versatility and kind of scat back ability, I think Will Maffa just saying, hey, I'm running at you downhill, one cut, let's go, baby. That as a running back, JD, that's the way to live. And frankly, the not dancing, not, toe tapping back there. It's just one cut and go. Now he's, taking 30-yard runs. He's averaging over 8 yards a carry. So I don't know if I fully buy it yet, but I do think this Tigers offense has some real teeth to it compared to the past several seasons.
Hey, I just appreciate you sneaking in there like, hey, JD, you understand how Phil Maffa feels as a former running back. Like, me and Phil Maffa,
Exactly.
very similar tape. Very, very similar tape. I think I was right below him on the board for Clemson.
Well, I think you would have been a quality Clemson guy. I think the program would fit well in. I think there in Clemson, South
Hey,
Carolina.
I would cover a kick. I tell you that. I may not help him on offense. I would cover a kick. Jesse, what else are you maybe not trusting so far throughout college football, week 5 into this thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm selling Missouri as a national title contender. I think it was their precipitous fall in the AP poll. I think it was warranted. There, some of their underlining metrics, I think, look actually worse than the kind of the raw stats. You say, oh, you look at they're a top 10 defense, and Cook's numbers are okay, and Luther Burden scored 4 or 5 touchdowns, but they're lacking a ton of explosiveness. A year ago, they were, I think, second in the SEC in plays over 30 yards. This year, they're tied. They have one more. Here's the stat for you: they have one more than Oklahoma, which might be
Oof.
one of the worst offenses in all of the Power Five or Core Four. So there's just something. They seem slower on defense. I think they definitely miss the pass rusher Robinson from a year ago, Tyron Hopper, Rakestraw, the corner. I just something's missing there. Henry Mevis, they missed the thicker kicker.
Yeah.
They have a guy who missed 3 field goals this past weekend, 2 field goals a couple weeks ago. So their schedule is going to allow them to maybe figure some things out. But I think they're going to get got, not just at Alabama, but I could see A&M next weekend, or even I'm not high on Oklahoma right now because of their own quarterback situation. But why couldn't they, with that defense, maybe put a scare into the Tigers? So not trusting Missouri as a national title contender. And I'll tell you this: I'm not trusting that all these coaches across the country are you're gonna suddenly figure out their own quarterback, rooms right now. That's whether that be in Oklahoma, whether that be at Auburn, whether that be Texas A&M. Is Elko going to get that right? Does he go back to Wegman, or does he stick with Marcel Reed? I'm not confident that any of these coaches are actually going to get it right based on what we've seen kind of thus far.
And I'm glad you said that because this is kind of something we didn't talk about at all before this, but I'm glad that we're here. The Oklahoma quarterback situation. Like Michael Hawkins Jr., I think, is very obviously the right guy. I'm not 110% sure that Jackson Arnold isn't still a really good quarterback. Like, I'm looking at the offensive line, and when you have a sack rate of 9%, probably doesn't help with decision making. It probably doesn't help the internal shot clock overall if you're trying to, run the offense to its maximum potential. And so I think Jackson Arnold could end up somewhere else, or maybe you go back to him at some point if you're Oklahoma, if you're able to get some more receivers healthy and Michael Hawkins Jr. struggles. But I think that to me is the most layup of layups with what the offense has right now. I think he is the only guy to go to run the system because he can get you out of trouble.
Yeah, I think it's a concern that Brent Venables seemed to have kind of, I don't know if it's revisionist history or what, but suddenly, the talk out of Norman is that, oh, no, we didn't tell Dylan Gabriel he couldn't come back. That ended up being his decision. He made that choice to move on. Again, that's kind of reeks of revisionist history to me based on just how much was coming out of Norman in terms of smoke about how excited they were about Jackson Arnold and this 5-star and this guy who had this big old arm. And, Jackson's athletic. I mean, before the Tennessee game, he was leading the Sooners in rushing. He does not have the kind of, I think, scoot and wheels ability of Hawkins. But there's certainly talent there. But when you have 9 turnovers, you have no decision but to at least look at the other guy. Now, we'll see if it gets any better because, as you kind of mentioned, the receiver, I mean, they have like an infirmary right now, with that receiver room. They're all beat up. It's just, it's a complete mash unit. The offensive line, they whiff, JD. This is a grade A example of why you don't build an offensive line out of the portal, because they didn't identify the right guys. There's guys that are now at Miami and at Illinois and at a couple of these other schools that, were offensive linemen out of the portal that absolutely could have gone to Oklahoma, and they just misidentified the talent that they brought in, and they've whiffed. And so it's a terrible offensive line. It's a receiver room that's wrecked, and now you have, a broken 5-star quarterback, and you're turning into a guy who, yeah, he came in and gave you a little bit of a spark, but we'll see what sort of, I think, staying power, I guess, it has for an offense that just feels like it's a complete mess right now.
And Jesse, short of Jackson Arnold, I don't want to be the "I told you so" kind of guy, but we sat here and we had Oklahoma at 6-6, which is probably a little bit, below the the overall opinion on them. I know their win total was 7.5, but I'm not wildly surprised now that you plugged in 5 new offensive linemen, had a quarterback his first year starting in the SEC, and it's not working how maybe you hoped it would work if you're Norman. Now, I don't think Brent Venables is a bad coach. There's something to be said about, like you mentioned, the quarterback situation and the way they've built this offensive line, but this year was always a pretty massive question mark when you break in a whole new offensive line in the SEC. And so, it's kind of like you reap what you sow a little bit here. And this was just kind of the year that Oklahoma was running up on when it comes to what this year was going to be on the roster. To pivot here a little bit, staying in the quarterback lane, I think we both try and not be the hot take guys. We don't just say things to get clicks or for traffic, but it's going to come off this way. So that's a heck of a preface to say I don't think that Notre Dame has the right guy playing quarterback right now. I don't trust it. I think Riley Leonard so far, with what you have on that offense, with all the skill players in the perimeter that Notre Dame has both recruited and got via the portal, they've been so inconsistent. And so I guess my question here to you is, Jesse, is am I just off the deep end here, or is it maybe time to look, maybe not, I don't want to say look elsewhere, but is it time to think about maybe working in Steve Angeli a little bit out there in Notre Dame?
JD, I don't even know if that doesn't even qualify as sriracha for spice. I think that's totally fair and with merit. Look, Riley Leonard has just, I don't know if it's a regression deal or what it was, but he has just not been the same guy for a couple seasons now. He's obviously battled a slew of injuries. Throwing the football was never his kind of strong suit, which seems like an odd statement to say about a quarterback. But he's a supreme athlete, ex-basketball player. He's shown what he can do with his legs. But this is a guy who, he had 3 touchdowns all of a year ago, and it took him 4 games to throw, 1 score this season. He has 1 pass, I think, over 25 yards. He's just a limiting factor right now. You're averaging 5.7 per attempt, and this is against 2 MAC defenses, Purdue, and then, yes, Texas A&M. And so it's not like Notre Dame's been playing a bunch of world beaters that would say, oh, man, this – they've been going up against the best secondaries in the country. No, that's not the case at all. And so if he can't do anything against this Louisville pass defense, I have kind of a matchups piece at On 3 right now. And that's kind of what I centered on, was Riley Leonard and kind of Notre Dame's passing offense against this Louisville pass defense. Louisville hadn't played anybody. We really don't know anything about the Cards. The one little bit of leakiness they've shown at all defensively, and I say little bit because it's just one game against Georgia Tech. Haynes King had over 300 yards, averaged 10 yards of attempt. So if Riley Leonard can't find anything, again, when you said the weapons that they have, they brought in Collins from Clemson, who seems to have flashed. I think Jaden Thomas and some of the other guys they have out there, they don't lack skill players like in recent years. The running back position's good. The offensive line is just okay. But, Angeli was certainly looked better against Purdue, going up against the same, bad secondary. And he, had 2 touchdowns in that game. Leonard did a bunch with his legs. So I again, sriracha take, get him out. Let's see somebody else. Now this is also like the quarterback economics though. Because what sort of roster investment did you make with your NIL collective to bring Riley Leonard in, and how much does that influence and factor into these decisions that say, hey, if you're only going to get X% better, do we losing the locker room or whatever? So it's a new world, man.
It is wild times, absolutely wild times right now. And maybe if you're a Notre Dame fan, you say, well, hey, JD, Jesse, we're dinged up on the offensive line. We need a guy who can escape and run the football for us. Maybe that's the answer. And if that is, cool. That's your world you want to live in. But we're in agreement here. There's too many weapons here for Notre Dame to have a guy who can't consistently push the ball downfield. And like you mentioned, against this Louisville secondary, where that's probably where you have to win if you're going to win this game at home against Louisville. So I don't know. Do you have a take in that game, Jesse? I'm putting you on the spot here. We have picked Louisville on this show in that game. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish faithful will come after us in full force if and when we are wrong. Do you have a prediction in that game before we let you go?
I'm leaning the Cards for the points too. I mean, I think they have the better quarterback. They got the better coach. That's again, A plus B equals C for me. So
yeah, I guess that, and then college
I'm a
football will tell us. Go say it again.
I'm a simple man, so
I love it. I was going to say A plus C or A plus B sometimes equals D in college football, as we've seen now multiple times. So I mean, maybe we'll sit here on Monday with egg on our face, but I'm with you, Jesse. I think it all makes too much sense. Way too much sense. Again, Jesse Simonton, best in the business. Check out all his work over at on3.com and on this show as well. So, Jesse, appreciate you, man. Stay safe out there with the weather coming in.
Thanks for having me. Y'all have a good show.
Yes, sir. The man, the myth, the legend. Little flex bone. 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And then we opened it up a little bit there as well towards the end, getting some quarterback talk. And again, the folks in South Bend, I love Marcus Freeman. I love Riley Leonard. I would love nothing more than to see the Fighting Irish find themselves as a 5 seed in the college football playoffs, sitting there welcoming in the G5 team. I'd love a playoff game in South Bend, Indiana. It would be cinema. I don't feel good about it. And I wish I did, because y'all know I was high on Notre Dame coming into the year. But with what we've seen, it's just need to see more. Now, speaking of needing to see more, we got a big one here. 3:30 Eastern on Fox, the Bounce House. Colorado at UCF. And also, we're not trying to copy Pat McAfee saying Haas there. We're just saying house because that's just how we say house sometimes. Anyway, UCF, very quietly undefeated right now in Big 12 play. They're favored by 14.5 in this game. It won't be quiet anymore at UCF if you find a way to win this one at home, because everyone and their mama is watching what Colorado will do next after the Hail Mary win. All right? Now, Colorado, it's kind of this continual trend for them, this continual question we're trying to get answers to. Hey, Colorado, if you are who parts of your fan base believe that you are and believe that you can be, this is the kind of game you got to win. All right? On the road, a team that's physical up front in UCF, that runs the football like it's their job, like this is one of those games. If you're going to be a team that contends for the conference now, you got to find a way to win. Also, letdown spot. Emotional game at home. You beat Baylor. Hail Mary to send it to overtime. This is the kind of game now where good teams regroup, find a way to play their best football on the road, 2-touchdown dog, like find a way here. So I think what we just said about UCF is really the story in this game now. They are a 73% run the football kind of outfit out there in Orlando. That's what they're going to do. Little A.J. Harvey over here, who hasn't had a game under 100 yards. Little K.J. Jefferson kind of dashed in there in the quarterback run game. That's going to be huge. What I just said about K.J. Jefferson may be kind of the X factor in this game. Colorado, man, I think they're improved defensively. The numbers would back that up. Had some trouble now defending the quarterback run. North Dakota State had some work against them. Baylor had some work against them, and they won't even have, I don't think, the caliber of an athlete that K.J. Jefferson is when it comes to running the football. That's going to be huge. It's a 2-touchdown favorite for UCF. Colorado, obviously, kind of the massive underdog in this one. So whenever we find situations like that and we break down the game, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to pick UCF outright. How would Colorado find a way to get it done? Now, funny enough, I think the strengths for Colorado actually match up pretty well with what I would call the weaknesses for UCF. UCF now, for as good as they are running the football offensively, they are very bad defensively defending the pass. Very bad. I mean, they are allowing over 300 yards a game. They're allowing 8.1 yards a pass. That's good for 96th in America. Colorado, what do? Throw the freaking ball. You got a first-round pick in Shedeur Sanders playing quarterback. You have the best player in college football, and Travis Hunter out wide. The key for me for them to win this football game, I need a Robin to the Batman that is Travis Hunter. I need Will Shepherd to step up in a massive way in this game. He was a dog for Vanderbilt a season ago, one of the better receivers in the SEC. You need him to step up in this game because I promise you, if you're UCF, all week long, all you have watched is cut-ups of number 12 for Colorado, make an acrobatic catch after contested catch, after big play downfield. Like, you are going to say, hey, listen, if we lose this game, it's not because Travis Hunter had 200 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. That's not going to be how we lose this game. So I expect a whole lot of extra attention to Travis Hunter. So when that happens now, need Will Shepherd to pick up the pace a little bit. I need him to go off in this game if Colorado is going to win the football game. If you're a Colorado fan, I would recommend going back and watching the TCU film against UCF. TCU was, I think they'll be different than what Colorado does, but it was a pretty similar, I think, flavor to how Colorado is going to attack UCF. Threw the ball 50 times that game. Quarterback had a day, did TCU. Like, they had UCF on the ropes. I think you could make a case for TCU probably should have won that game, all right? However, the thing that concerns me in this game is exactly what we just talked about at the top of this thing, the running game. And it's not just the quantity of it, not just the percentage of 73% run, it is the versatility that Colorado, again, has really struggled with. It's R.J. Harvey, it's KJ Jefferson on quarterback power, it's read option, it's the ad-lib plays. Like, all those things to me factor together to where UCF will be able to hold the football, keep Shedeur Sanders off the field, pick up first downs, wear down that defense. And we saw this now against Nebraska. It wasn't quite as versatile, but like good running the football teams are able to get a push against Colorado. Colorado has improved, but I don't think they are near where they need to be to find a way to win the Big 12. Now, do they win this game? We'll make our pick here in a second. Prize Picks, code HARDCOUNT, $5 in lineups, gets you $50 in promo funds. Our play for this game, we like R.J. Harvey. 77.5 rush yards is his number right now over at Prize Picks. I would take that all the way up to like 110, to be honest with you. I'll take the more there. I'll go ahead and pair that with Shedeur Sanders' pass yards. 301.5 is the number right now over at prizepicks.com. Again, I mean, UCF is giving up more than that against pretty much everyone they're playing, right? The average is 310 a game for UCF secondary in terms of pass yards allowed. So take the R.J. Harvey rush yards more, take the Shedeur Sanders rush or pass yards more, and use code HARDCOUNT, $5 in lineups, $50 in promo funds. So feel free to fade or follow there. So our prediction in this game, the letdown spot, the run game for UCF, the quarterback run game for UCF. If Colorado wins, it's because they drew first blood early, made it a track meet, and just outpaced UCF the entire way. That could be how this goes. However, I'm taking UCF to win, and I'll take UCF to cover in this game in Orlando. I'm excited to see how it turns out, though. Excited to see how it turns out. All right, here's something that really hit the Twitter sphere this morning. Dave Portnoy is the founder of Barstool Sports, and he basically just said, listen, I'm going to make sure that Michigan has a quarterback going forward. So go ahead and check out this clip from his show with Barstool. I believe it's the Yak. Go ahead and check this out right now.
Michigan, I will be the quarterback guy. You just say, Dave, you go. I'll talk to Sean. Who do you guys want? Who's in there? Give me a group. I'll go get them. I will sign them $1 million, $2 million, whatever it is.
What's the top?
$3 million.
What if, I mean, are some of them going for more? Wasn't the Nico kid like...
Fine, but I can get a quarterback. We don't have a quarterback. If I don't get the number one...
For 3, though. You can be in the stratosphere.
Yeah, but you don't want to... I'm wondering, like, is Dave... How are you running this? I want to get a quarterback, or I'm like George Steinbrenner, I will spend any amount of dollars?
No, I'm gonna get us a top 10 quarterback in the portal coming out every year. Top 10 quarterback.
A freshman or a portal.
Okay, I'm interested in maybe doing this for the Badgers too.
And then
I think that we might.
And then, well, here's
you know what, I'm in.
Well, here's a little bit of the issue.
Okay.
You'll have to find something else because they're doing a weekly spot on Pardon My Take. My guy, not your guy. My guy. That's already been taken. So you're gonna have to find something else for the Wisconsin guy.
Okay.
That, like college football recap
so the Wisconsin,
in a college football hit. So there's two things: $3 million marketing agreement. I think that's legal.
I think that's legal. So my guy, I'm thinking, my guy is going to be doing one pizza review a week, one pizza review a week, and he's going to be on your dozen team. So you're going to
he's going to have to travel.
Break up Eddie and Clem. Unfortunately, you're going to have to break up Eddie and Clem. My guy is going to be your dozen partner.
So that's Dave Portnoy, again, on Barstool Pick'em, not the Yak, Barstool Pick'em, correction there, saying, I'm going to make sure we got a quarterback at Michigan. I'm going to make sure. And here's the thing now. I don't think he's kidding. Like, Barstool does a lot of satirical content, and it's funny stuff sometimes over there. But, like, I think he's being 110% serious with saying, I'm going to make sure that Michigan has a quarterback here going forward. And so the number that was thrown out there was like $2-3 million. In theory, what quarterbacks are valued around that number? The On3 NIL valuation has guys like Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe, Nico Iamaleava, Jackson Dart. Now, I'm not saying Michigan is able to poach one of those guys. That's not the purpose of telling you those numbers. The purpose of telling you those numbers is that's what a high-profile quarterback would go for, in theory. That's what they would be valued at, according to us here at On3. So if that's the case now, imagine, just put yourself in this mindset. Imagine Cam Ward is at Michigan and not Miami. I don't know if Michigan loses to USC. I'll tell you that right now. Imagine. I promise that Michigan wouldn't have lost to Texas, I would say, as a better game is what I'm trying to make sure we get clear there. Michigan and USC, you have another pitch there. Michigan having a quarterback would drastically change the complexion of their season this year. That's obvious. But going forward now, if they consistently have a high-profile quarterback because of how much their alumni care about their football team, that's massive. And that is what I want to talk about right now. That is where we are right now in modern college football. That is the new world we're living in. A Michigan grad, Dave Portnoy, a lot of money, valued at, per a Google search, $100 million. He's good for $2-3 million to make sure that his former school has a quarterback to go compete for a national title. He's good for it. And there's some folks saying, well, hey, he shouldn't do that. That's not okay. Why not? Again, he's good for it, and he cares about his football program. The same way that Tennessee cares about their team, so they got a talent fee. The same way Oklahoma State cares about their team, so they're trying to put a QR code on the back of players' helmets to get them paid. The same way Missouri cares now, where they're giving a $60 million anonymous donation to make sure they have the best talent possible. All these things factored together now to where, like, NIL is not, something you can feel out and see if you want to participate in. It's like, if you don't use it, it will be used against you. Dave Portnoy is a perfect example of that right here. And honestly, as a college football fan, I love it. I love it because it means how much I care, how much me and my brotherly fan base cares. Like, we can find a way to get this done. We can find a way to elevate our team based on how much we're willing to give. So I'll say this too, going forward now, I think we're approaching an era where the big boys, the Michigans backed by Dave Portnoy, the Nikes backed by Phil Knight, or the Oregons backed by Phil Knight and Nike, they're going to have, I think, substantially less roster holes than ever before. I'll take it a step further. I'd be surprised if we get to a point in college football where schools like a Michigan, like a Oregon, like an Ohio State, like a Miami, are ever in a situation where it's like, man, they don't have a quarterback. Dave Portnoy is going to make sure Michigan has a quarterback every year going forward from here on out. And again, people are saying, he was kind of joking. I wouldn't be so sure. I think this was a serious comment made by a guy who's serious, again, about his former school, about where he graduated from, and about Michigan football competing at a national level. Your care factor has never mattered more. And good for Dave Portnoy, good for Michigan football. I can't wait to see what they do going forward. I see someone in the live chat saying JD is going to get Cornell to the playoffs. Hey, I'm just saying, hey, don't tempt me. Don't tempt me. We get some NIL rolling out there at Cornell. It is game blouses for everyone else in the Ivy League. I'm just telling you right now, it would be inappropriate, the amount of NIL dollars I would be using to build that program into a not just like a national power, not just a conference power, a national power. But I digress. So every single Thursday, we make sure we give you our final thoughts and predictions before we jump into the college football Saturday that is Week 5. Now, to make sure we're aligned here, we have more content every single day on this channel, so we'll have more videos coming out for you tomorrow. We'll have more videos on Saturday. But as this is our last chance to have a conversation in a live capacity or in a full long-form capacity, whether it be on podcast or if you're watching the live show, here's our final predictions heading in to Week 5 of the college football season. The game of the week is obviously Georgia-Bama. That's not a secret. And I've picked already, I think Georgia wins that football game. But my prediction for that game on the Alabama side is I think we walk away and say, man, Jalen Milroe, he is everything we thought he was, and potentially then some. Because last year in this game, in the SEC title game, he was less equipped offensively when it came to the offense they were running. It was his first time being a starting quarterback in the SEC, so he was still, I think, trying to gain his sea legs and kind of figure out how to play the game at the level he wanted to play it at. But now, you take a fact that he's got a better offensive mind behind him in Kalen DeBoer, who's playing to his skill set, who's equipping him as a passer. I think he will be very firmly in the Heisman Trophy conversation, even if Alabama doesn't win this football game. Now, I'm not saying he goes for 400 yards, but I do think we leave and say, okay, Jalen Milroe, everything we thought about him against this Georgia defense, he proved he's for real. He is absolutely for real. I said it again last year. Good, not great in this game. 56% completion percentage. With the offense, with the experience, with, I think, honestly, just the swagger and belief he's built since last year, I'm excited to watch him play. I'm excited to watch him do his thing. Now, my prediction on the Georgia side of things, I think that the wide receiver core elevates in this game. I think they take a step forward. Pick whoever you want to talk about there. Dominique Lovett, Dylan Bell. I think overall this group will, and quite frankly has to, for Georgia to win this football game, because in this situation now, no Tate Ratledge, and Alabama, I think the strength of their defense, if you're asking me, is probably that front seven. You put the ball in your star quarterback's hands, in Carson Beck, and you push the ball vertical. You find a way to test that secondary, because that secondary now, they've been phenomenal this year, but even with that being said, they haven't played anyone nearly the caliber of a Georgia. Now, Georgia hasn't played anyone the caliber of an Alabama either, but just so we're on the same page here, like Wisconsin is not holding a candle to what Georgia is doing. This will be a very, very different outfit, a very different approach than Alabama's had to play against to this point in the year. I think they take advantage of that, and I think ultimately that ends up being the difference for Georgia in this game. The explosivity in the pass game will be why Georgia wins this football game. I think we learned a lot about Miami this week, and this is more of a thought than a prediction, but I think this is one of those games we see what's under the hood for Miami. Josh Newberg and I talk a lot about this in the office, but if you're like a national title contending team, I'm not saying you can't have off games, but when you play teams that you're supposed to roll against, and Miami is a 19.5-point favorite over Vatech, they're supposed to roll in this game, you roll against those teams, especially early on in the year, when you're healthy, when you got momentum, in a spot where it is a short week. Like, this is one of those games now where if Miami is who we believe they are, and we've said it before, we think they're a national title contending team, they go out to the woodshed and take Vatech all the way out to pasture. All right, that is what they are supposed to do. If they do that, further validates our thought here around Miami. If they struggle, I'm not saying Miami isn't who we thought they were, but I think we learn a lot about the approach and the maturity of this team in this game against Vatech. I told you we'd have a pick for you when it comes to Penn State, Illinois. Maybe there was a spoiler if you watched the live show in its entirety. I think that Penn State rolls. I think Penn State covers that 17.5 points against Illinois. Now, they were on our upset alert segment, upset watch segment, because of the fact that Illinois has been opportunistic and we're not, we haven't seen Penn State play against a defense the caliber of Illinois. But even with that being said now, I think the man coverage is going to be finger-licking good for Andy Koltznecki. I think Drew Aller dices them up. I understand they don't have a Keandre Lambert-Smith. They don't have one of those game breakers just yet that has emerges on the outside for Penn State, but I think that we see a potluck-style performance from the Penn State wide receiver core. Everyone brings a little bit of something, and Penn State covers that number, and we go, oh, okay. Andy Koltznecki, Drew Aller, yeah, they are in fact like that. I'll go ahead and take Kansas State as well to bounce back big time at home over Oklahoma State. Kansas State, you got certain fans that made promises on Twitter to do certain things with items from Taco Bell. It's as specific as I will go. I think they bounce back in a big way this week at home. Oklahoma State, salty outfit, 100% true, but Avery Johnson now, the mobility factor. We saw Taylor Green from Arkansas, the quarterback, have some success on the ground against Oklahoma State. I think Avery Johnson does the same thing. I think Kansas State wins that football game. Now, here's my final thought for you here on Week 5 of the college football season. It's about Oklahoma and Auburn, and it's not a very inspiring thought to leave you with, but here we go. I picked Oklahoma to win this game. Picked them to go in there. My thought was, hey, I think it is more likely for Michael Hawkins Jr. to play well enough on the road in a raucous environment in Jordan-Hare, and they win that football game. I think it's more likely that happens, that the Auburn offense has a get-right spot against the top 10 defense in America in Oklahoma. That logic to me still checks out. However, I just want to tell y'all, I do not feel good about that pick at all. I'm not backing off of it. We're not switching our pick here, but I do not feel good about that because this is the same outfit a year ago. Auburn gets beat by New Mexico State. The next week, Alabama rolls into town. Alabama's, playing for a spot to go to Atlanta, and they end up being a college football playoff team. And Auburn has them on the ropes on 4th and 31 and should have won that football game. I'm just saying, snapshots that we see week to week, the multiple turnovers against Arkansas, the bad day against Cal, has a very funny way of switching itself week in and week out. And I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if Auburn won that football game. Still picking Oklahoma, but it's at Jordan Hare. I'm telling you, Hugh Freeze is kind of a magician offensively when he gets it rolling. We've seen it against Bama. We've seen it against Georgia a year ago. I'm just saying, don't feel good about it, but regardless, excited to watch that one play out. All right, we'll get to a quick ad read here from our friends over at Huel. Now, Huel is something that I have just started trying. Got it right here, little meal replacement shake. I'm a big fan of what they do now. Big fan, because I know a lot of y'all, too, living life on the go. You're taking the kids to practice. You are going to and from class if you're in college and listening to this. We appreciate y'all. Whatever you're doing, life is probably a little bit up-tempo, a little no-huddle offense for you. Huel is phenomenal. This podcast is sponsored by Huel, the world's #1 complete nutrition brand with over 400 million meals sold worldwide. Yes, you heard that right, 400 million. Huel is trusted by millions of people to fuel their days with convenient, complete nutrition. Try it for yourself with my exclusive offer for you, 15% off with code HARDCOUNT at Huel.com. Fuel your best with Huel today. So that's 15% off with code HARDCOUNT at Huel.com. Unlock a healthier, easier way to eat with Huel. Nutritionally complete meals in minutes so you can focus on what really matters. I'm going to have one of these after we get off the air here. Good stuff from our folks at Huel, and we appreciate them bringing the juice and allowing us to just live life on the run a little bit here. So thank you to the folks at Huel. Also want to make sure y'all know that the Hard Count is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Game Time, great way to make sure you're getting to wherever you want to get to on Saturdays in the fall. I know a lot of y'all are kind of thinking like, hey, maybe I do actually want to get out to, Auburn, Oklahoma. Oh, maybe I do want to get out to a game where Notre Dame's hosting Louisville. If you wake up on Saturday morning, you're like, man, where's the best way to buy tickets? What's the best, fast, easy, safe way to buy tickets? Game Time, all right? Know before you buy. See your view from your seat before you even purchase. Also, if you find a ticket in the same section and row for less than what you paid for, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code HARDCOUNT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code HARDCOUNT. That's HARDCOUNT for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. All right, man. Hey, we appreciate y'all being locked in. Again, you only get so many. Got to make every single Saturday count. Excited for this college football Saturday we got on deck. Excited to talk about it with y'all on Sunday morning. So make sure you're subscribed. We got a Sunday morning podcast that comes out. We have a ton of content on the YouTube channel as soon as the games finish up into Sunday morning. So make sure you're locked in. We appreciate y'all for that. For Nick Brake on the ones and twos, for myself, JD Piquel, we appreciate y'all. Like I said, we love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time.